Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Today we're having a quick look at a couple of cars that we've got on the forecourt here at Berrow Motors. Now, you couldn't really call these hot hatches, I don't think, not in today's world of 300 brake horsepower turbocharged monsters, but lukewarm hatches perhaps as your second car after you've had to drive around in your iGo for a year or two. You might be looking at something like one of these, a 1.6 naturally aspirated sport version of your everyday hatchback. On my right, we've got the 1.6 Suzuki Swift Sport, and on my left is the Ford Fiesta S1600 1.6. Basically a 1.6 ZTEC S in a bit of a frock, really. And I thought we'd have a look and see which one you'd buy. They are similarly priced. I mean, these two particular aren't, because this is a 2012 car on 30,000 miles, and this is a 2010 car on 80,000 miles. But similar age, similar price, they are in the same sort of market. So which would you pick? Which would I pick? I guess that's what we're going to find out today. Okay, so let's have a quick look around the cars. I think just from first glance, the Swift looks a slightly more modern car, and I do like these multi-spoke alloy wheels. They're both blue, that's pretty obvious. They've both got rear privacy glass. They've both got 17-inch alloy wheels. But the Swift does have a nice twin exit exhaust system, which I do like, which the Ford Fiesta doesn't have. The Sport's got some nice badging that says that it's a sport model, whereas the S1600 doesn't have any kind of badges whatsoever to tell you that this is a special version, the S1600. It just has ZTEC S on the back. They've both got little spoilers on the back denoting that these are sport models, along with the alloy wheels. Alloy wheels are going to come down to a personal preference, which you prefer. I mean, I do like the white alloy wheels, but we do need to get some new center caps for this one in particular. They both feature a bit of a rear diffuser F1 style look to the back bumper to give them a bit more of an aggressive look. So from the outside, they're both quite similarly spec'd, and I think inside's where the difference really starts to show. Opening the Swift for a start is keyless entry and ignition, and it comes with a really nice cloth interior on these sports seats, which are incredibly comfortable and supportive, and the steering wheel on this is super nice as well, with the red stitching, nice supple leather. It's nice and chunky, and it's got all of your steering wheel controls on there, including your cruise control. Once you're inside, everything feels super nice and ergonomic. You need loads of adjustment to get yourself nice and comfortable in here, so there's no problems on that front getting yourself into a nice sporty driving position. It's got a nice set of gauges up here as well that are kind of got a plastic silver trim around them. I mean, it does look quite plasticky, a little bit gimmicky, but it's still an added extra little feature that I think's quite nice, makes this feel a little bit more special than your average Swift. As far as infotainment system goes, we've got CD, radio, Bluetooth, and we do have a USB auxiliary in as well. I don't know if we have a standard 3.5 jack USB in here, but frankly, who's using one of those these days? We have as well got climate control, which is quite a nice system on this, super nice and easy to use, and works very well. Now, if we have a look in the Fiesta, we've got a nice leather interior. Again, nice blue stitching, but these are more just the ZTEC S style seats that I wouldn't say they're quite as sporty as the Swift, but it is nice that they are leather, and these are heated as well, which adds a nice layer of luxury to it. Again, we've got a nice leather steering wheel, but it's thinner, and I don't think it looks quite as nice as the one on the Swift. Don't have as many controls in here, and we don't seem to have cruise control, which is a bit of a letdown on a more premium version of a standard hatchback. Infotainment system, it's much of a muchness really, it's just how they look, but both have got CD, radio, Bluetooth. This one most definitely has got a 3.5 jack auxiliary in, as well as the USB. One major glaring difference is though that the Fiesta only has a 5-speed gearbox, whereas the Swift has a 6-speed, and it actually makes a huge difference when it comes to motorway driving. Both have got pretty comfortable sized rear passenger space. I think the Fiesta pips it on looks, being leather, and they both have got an even-sized boot. On the whole, I think the Swift is probably a slightly larger car, but it's also the more powerful of the two. Both cars have got a 1.6 naturally aspirated inline-4 engine, neither of which produce a huge amount of power, the Ford being 119 brake horsepower and the Swift is 138. So the Swift does pip it by 18 horsepower. Is it 18? But I think it's going to be more important how they actually deliver their power. So I think we'll get them out on the road and just see which one I enjoy driving more. And I think because the Swift seems to pip it on features, functions, looks, we'll take that out first, because the only chance for the Ford to beat this Swift really is how it drives. And of course it is a Ford with racing pedigree, so there's every chance it will. So first impressions of the Swift are pretty good. The engine on idle is practically silent. You cannot hear it at all. Sound insulation in here is actually pretty good for a hatchback. No complaints there at all. The steering's nice and light, making it easy to drive. I can't really speak on how the steering feel is just yet, but other than being a bit wide for these seats, it's a very nice, easy, comfortable drive so far. Ride comfort's pretty good. It's not too firm. It feels firm enough, but nothing crazy. Disappointingly, the engine feels a little bit lazy, to be honest. Certainly not very torquey. We are doing 30 miles an hour at the moment. Given the chance, I'll put my foot down and we'll just see how well this picks up. So 30 in third. So I get the feeling this car comes alive in the higher revs, really. Handling's really good, pretty confidence inspiring. The brakes also very good. Everything in here is typically Japanese, really. Everything is super easy to use. The gearbox operates with the most minimal of effort. The clutch is light, the steering's light, the braking is strong but metered and controllable, and it's just a really easy thing to drive, which is great, but it doesn't make you feel that connected to the car. It makes you feel a bit like you're operating some kind of electronic device. It doesn't have a huge amount of soul. Now, Jordan has very kindly come out and driven in front of me to help me get some footage. But for once in his life, he is driving like an utter grandma, and I feel I owe it to the Swift to actually really try and get my foot down and experience the power delivery. So here we go. See, it definitely comes alive in the higher revs. 3.5 up. And it starts singing, and it feels nippy. It certainly doesn't feel torquey. So my verdict on the power and power delivery. Much like everything else, it feels like a bit of a technicality. Yes, it does have 138 brake horsepower, and you know, it does pick up the speed. It does carry momentum once you're in the higher revs. But you're not really feeling it in your heart and soul. It's just ticking it off on a check sheet. Yes, it can do it. These are the facts and figures, but don't expect to get too excited about it. So let's hop in the Fiesta and see if there's a different story in there. Not forgetting it's got even less power on paper. Right, here we are in the Fiesta, and straight away I'm more comfortable. A, these leather seats are just generally very comfortable, but B, they're not quite so tight on the midriff, which is good for someone who likes to overindulge like me. I'm definitely getting more feedback from the road in this car. It still feels smooth, planted, The sound deadening very similar. Perhaps the Suzuki pips it slightly, but it certainly doesn't feel overly noisy and tinny in here. The steering's not as light, and we've definitely got more feel of what's happening underneath us between rubber and tarmac. We've definitely got more feel and feedback here, which is very reassuring. The gear stick's got a bit more throw than Suzuki, but it's equally as easy to use. You just have to do it a bit more purposefully. Understand that it's not just flicking and notching in. You have got to decide on your gear, choose it, and send it all the way home. Now, considering this is 18, did we say, horsepower less than Suzuki, let's see how this does. If we drop to 30, in third, put our foot down. There might not be a huge amount in it, but I definitely say it feels like it's picking up. What I can't really display over the camera is it definitely feels like there's more torque. You put your foot down on the accelerator and you are pushed into the seat. You know something is happening, which I gotta say, in the Suzuki you don't really feel. You can hear the engine spooling up, you can see the speedometer is going up, but you don't really get that feeling of you're being put back in the seat and you know something is happening. He must not have liked my comments about him driving like a grandma, because he's going a bit quicker this time, which is good, because now we can test the handling a bit more. And we are right up his chuff. Well, he's not losing us with his extra 18 horsepower, and Jordan's not one to hold back. He very much likes to drive much beyond his capabilities. Strange thing to say, but despite the Suzuki having a few more bells and whistles in there, I think that this Ford actually feels far more premium, even down to the leather steering wheel. This just feels nicer in your hand. It feels like a better quality product. They're both an absolute ocean of plastic inside, but I think the Ford plastic just feels nicer. They've done a texture on it, so it's meant to look like it's a fabric. And I don't know, it just soaks up some of the light in here a bit better to make it feel a bit more plush. It's a shame we don't have more time today to get these on the motorway, because a 5-speed gearbox can be a bit worrying in a smaller engine car. Sometimes you can be going along at 70, 80, and the car is just screaming at you for mercy. With that 6 gear, you can take a bit of the load off the engine, and it doesn't have to be at such high revs to be going along at those motorway speeds. But I do get the feeling that Ford have got the gear ratios better in this Fiesta. It picks up quicker in first, second and third, and I wonder if they've changed the ratios in that 5th gear to make it a little bit leggier, so that when you're going down the motorway it's not screaming its nuts off. But I'm sure some Fiesta 5-speed owners will be able to let us know in the comments, and I'm sure this probably will spark a debate between Swift and Fiesta owners. Worth pointing out as well, I think between the two sound systems, the Ford has definitely got the better one. I always highly rate Ford sound systems, and yeah, from standard they seem to be able to handle quite a lot of bass, giving it quite a rich kind of surrounding sound. So yeah, the sound system, I think the Ford pips. My girlfriend will be dying of cringe now. Right, let's get back to the garage and let's decide which one of these two you should buy. So, which of these two would I buy? Well, I actually think the Suzuki Swift is the better all-rounder car, but I'd buy this one. I think it just drives 10 times better. It's far more fun and engaging. This, if I had to recommend something to a family member or a friend, I would recommend. But for me personally, I would drive this. Which one would you have, Jordan? Swift. You'd have the Swift?
Yeah, I'd have the Swift.
but you didn't get to put your foot down on this, so.
I mean, I tried-ish.
So obviously there's not a huge amount in it. They're both absolutely great cars and they're both for sale. So if you are interested, visit berrowmotors.co.uk. If you're interested in selling your car, visit carsbought4more.com. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please do subscribe. If you're not, thank you for continuing to watch. And other than that, I'll see you next time.